Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. I got thrown because our engineer didn't make a Muppet voice at me. Lots of news today. Big show. We've got the Game of Thrones prequel. They've started casting. We're going to go through some show details, what the show is actually about, what time period it covers. Plus, we're going to ask the big question. Do we care? I don't know. Do you guys care about Game of Thrones anymore? Did they play themselves? Plus, it's also the 9th anniversary of Captain America: The First Avenger. And apparently the Mortal Kombat movie made its actors nauseous and throw up and wish they were dead. All of that is in support of Direct Relief and Black Lives Matter. Links to support are in the description. I am joined by Fandom's own Eric Goldman.
Hello there.
And the Wizard of Honest Trailers, Spencer J. Gilbert. Hello, sir.
Don't look behind the curtain. No.
If you look behind the curtain, you'll just see Lon running on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Let's get into it, guys. So they've started casting. House of Dragons is the prequel project that is left standing. It's
also my prog rock album title, which is a bummer. I have to
House
change
of
that
Dragons are moving forward.
Of love.
The house that dragons built. So the network has begun casting for the series. Now, this show is not the show that was going to star Naomi Watts. This replaces the Naomi Watts project. They filmed a pilot and then it got scrapped. This is planned for 2022. It's based on George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, which is a history of House Targaryen, which is set 300 years before the events of Game of Thrones. George says that it's been in development for several years, although the title has changed a couple of times during that process. It was actually the first concept I pitched to HBO when we started talking about a successor show way back in the summer of 2016. So let's pause there for a minute before we sort of get into the nuts and bolts. Like, a lot of the last season of Game of Thrones was very, very polarizing. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people were down the middle. A lot of people loved it. You know, some people have sworn off Game of Thrones altogether. So is this going to be a successor show or a successor show? You two tell me now.
Ooh. Look, this is it is and it isn't, because of all the prequel ideas that were floated around, of like going back to the Age of Heroes and Bran the Builder and stuff like that, to the Naomi Watts one. The Dance of Dragons is as similar to the War of the Seven Kingdoms. All these facts are fading away like tears in rain. But this is like, it's a civil war in the kingdom that we know and love, starring a family that we already know and have mixed feelings about. There's more incest. There's more dragons. That's what you get when you do Targaryen stuff. And it'll be, I think, as familiar to Game of Thrones fans as any of the other ideas. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've read a lot of George R. R. Martin's background stuff. It's very detailed. He's got this all planned out. There is an ending. No one will have to create the ending to this, but it's not filled with character and point of view and emotion like the Ice and Fire series is, because this is just like, you know, all respect to our patron saint, but this is like a wiki article, like a version of events. Right. It just tells you who did what and why. There's snippets of character detail, but it's not like there's great speeches and dialogue that they can pull from like they did with the original series. Well, but it's a whole new cast and crew. So it's really just they're taking the world and the general setup of Game of Thrones and giving it a reroll. And so I think we'll have to see how they pull it off. I'm not in, but I'm not out.
Right. Well, Eric, I think Spencer makes kind of a good point, especially with, you know, yes, there's a plan, but also it's, historical bullet points almost. Does this show run in danger of like pulling a Hobbit, where they just stuffed Silmarillion stuff into the Hobbit?
Yeah, it does. It is. Spencer makes a good point that they kind of chose probably one of the plots that would be the most similar and visually similar to Game of Thrones, which I'm sure was a decision that was not made haphazardly. Because I was excited for the one that Naomi Watts, mostly because Jane Goldman was doing it. No relation, because I like her work. You know, Game of Thrones is funny. I look back on it and I think very fondly of it. Like, yes, I thought the end was poor, but I'm not an ending guy, I guess. And I don't think I wasted 8 years of my life. I thought I had a great time for 8 years watching this show and these stories. That being said, maybe it says something about the ending that I'm not like, and I can't wait for more. I'm very like, okay, of course I'm going to check it out. The curiosity be there. But like you said, since they're kind of adapting something very dry, the onus will be on them. Can you make us love these characters? Can you make these interesting characters? That's Game of Thrones, like the big involved. I was not a fantasy guy either, and then Game of Thrones got me by having just like interesting characters, interesting world. So right now I'm kind of passive about this prequel, but it does make me hope that they can come out with something out of the gate that's like, oh yeah, this is a cool world, and hopefully I like these characters. I want to see more of their adventures week to week.
Well, the creative team includes Miguel Sapochnik, who did Battle of the Bastards and Winds of Winter. So they've wisely brought in someone who directed some of the good parts of the relationship to sort of go to Eric's comparison.
Sure.
And then it's being showrun. Do you know the show Colony, Eric?
Yeah, I saw a few episodes of season 1. That was the
Brian Condell, the showrunner. Colony.
Yeah, that was. I just want to say Sawyer, Josh Holloway, the sci-fi series about like it was kind of like we had been occupied, and we were behind a wall that the aliens had put us behind. And I liked it, but didn't grab me. It didn't grab me so much because I didn't stay with it after the first few episodes.
Okay. Well, this is 10 episodes, so it's they're definitely not, or at least for now, it seems like they're not counting on this to be a big sprawling, decade-long television event. 10 episodes seems kind of conservative for the first big Game of Thrones spinoff. There's no official casting breakdowns yet available, and also Fire and Blood covers 150 years, so it's not clear like where they're going to focus. But I do hope they focus on something specific and don't try to do like a 150-year spanning time jumpy show in 10 episodes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see scale-wise. I mean, clearly they want to deliver big, sweeping action and dragons. But one of the things that made Game of Thrones such a huge show, and production-wise, I'm just talking, is the fact that they filmed all over the world, because it's like this had, they had to go to Ireland for parts and other, all these parts of the world that were representing these different aspects. And I don't know, because I haven't read the source material on this, if they have to do that as much, or if it's a little more contained, which, would make it, not smaller scale in the scheme of things of everything, but compared to Game of Thrones, we'll see if, it feels like a little more, which is not a bad thing inherently. Maybe it's just a smaller group of characters.
Right. Well, to sort of go back, I guess to sort of combine 2 points with sort of the jet setting and being able to shoot all over the world, a lot of the locations in these stories, Spencer, seem familiar, like Harrenhal and King's Landing and Dorne and stuff like that. So it kind of feels like they're really leaning on what you had to say. Like it's going to be a very familiar and welcoming thing for Game of Thrones fans. Is that?
Yes, but it's a different time period. I'm actually not sure where Fire and Blood starts. But if it starts with if it's a true Targaryen family history, like it would start with them fleeing Essos, where the God, was it Valeria? I can't remember the name of their empire. It's all going. Oh God! But they would fly. They were like one of the smaller dragon-owning families, and then they had this vision that like the doom was coming, and they fled to Dragonstone and would start there, and then they'd move and slowly take over the continent, the Seven Kingdoms. And start King's Landing. Like King's Landing was just like a little shack that they built on the coast to start their invasion from. So it'd be familiar places, but if it is a different time period, things would look different. But there would be a lot of Dorne stuff. We all love Dorne, yes. But hopefully cool, because they were the one kingdom that they couldn't conquer, and they managed to take a couple of them out. So yeah, I think it'd be familiar enough if they're following that whole family history.
Can I ask you guys both a question? Have you ever noticed how in the fantasy genre, technology never changes?
Right. Oh, but Game of Thrones, they created those crossbows, but larger.
It's funny you say that, because that's Onward. The concept of Onward was
right.
And then Artemis Fowl, which not a good movie, but I hadn't read the book, and they also do that idea of they've evolved alongside us, the fantasy characters.
That's because I'm waiting for this to be 300 years before Game of Thrones, and they're all wearing the exact same stuff.
Right.
The exact same swords.
Star Wars has this problem to an extent too, because it's like even in stories set centuries before, it's like, yeah, they kind of try to make it a little different, but they're still kind of using the same stuff.
Yeah, with Star Wars, it's like it's cleaner.
Yeah,
right.
But Star Wars, weirdly, like everything in the prequels looks a lot like shinier than things got way more 70s in the original trilogy.
Well, the Galactic Empire was like, look at this janitor budget. No, the custodians were the first ones to go in the Empire. So books, the stuff to read in this are these three kind of novellas and shorts: Dangerous Women, Rogues, and Fire and Blood. According to George R.R. Martin. So those are the ones you want to check out if you want to get a taste of what these shows are going to cover. Fire and Blood was the most recent one. It was released in November 2018. That's the two-part history of the Targaryens in Westeros. So combined with that, plus there are some rumors that like 8 squirrels just got in a fight right outside my window. And I'm a cat now.
Squirrel fight.
I sit in this chair all day. And,
the dance of squirrels.
The dance of squirrels is my world now.
Fighting over season 8.
So I might just switch this to footage of my cat watching squirrels.
This is the battle of the bastards of squirrels.
Yeah, the scene from Sword in the Stone is actually happening outside my window. These squirrels are going to fall in love. But there are rumors that this is going to be also cover a little bit of the Dance of Dragons. So like the Civil War will get tackled somehow in this, maybe end with it to give you a reason to come back.
Yeah, I mean, if they're really going, I mean, it would span, I don't know, somewhere between 100 and 300 years if it went from Aegon landing and taking over the Seven Kingdoms to the beginning of Game of Thrones. So they could.
Yeah, that's the thing. And maybe they will. I mean, it's funny because there's a couple shows in recent years that have thought about doing kind of crazy ideas that they didn't do. Star Trek Discovery was originally going to be like each season's a totally different era, totally different crew. And then there was actually, they've been trying to do a Lost Boys show on the CW for years now. And one idea I really liked was that each season would be a different decade, same central vampires, but that it's like jumping ahead each time. But right. I think every time I think all the time the producers go, well, but we want to connect to all the other characters and all this stuff. But maybe with Game of Thrones, they'll feel like we could really do this. We could like do these sort of big jumps ahead.
Yeah, I don't know, because to me, part of the Game of Thrones was the characters, not so much the trappings and the stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is always a coin toss when shows do that. Like the Gilmore Girls return was like they hit every major holiday over the year instead of just telling like one story, and it felt real choppy. And so if this is now Gilmore Girls, but also in Westeros to me, which I'd watch Gilmore Girls.
You would.
I mean, it depends to me on how focused they are on the Targaryens, or if it's the Targaryens are like the Starks, and then there's lots of supporting and filling in characters surrounding them. Because the Targaryens, like, man, I don't know. They all blend together for me. They're all slight variations on Aenys and Rhaena. Like all of their names are like that, and they all look the same, and they all bang each other, and they all get these little petty squabbles, these like interscene fights among each other. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe doing the time jumps would be tough because you need characters other than the Targaryens to make it interesting.
Well, because it's the onus of treating it like almost an anthology, where it's like, all right, if you like the characters last season, hopefully we make another group of characters you like.
Yeah, that's a big gamble with a $400 million plane, Lieutenant. 4 million. That's $400 million is too expensive.
That's the money plane, Joe.
That's the money plane.
You want to see Targaryens in an orgy? That's money plane.
Money plane. Or just a Tuesday, because I feel like they probably do that a lot. Last big question for you guys, and then I also want to see what chat's talking about. So Ryan, drop that chat in our chat. For me, brother. What George R.R. Martin working on a show, should be finishing his book. I want to know your book feelings, boys.
I mean, look, we'll get Winds of Winter before he dies. We will never get the final book. At this rate, no. It's like exponential growth of time in between books, and I think that he's been psyched out by the reception of the ending of the show, and I think he's been understandably distracted or just more interested in doing other things rather than working on the 2,000-page novel that the entire world is going to judge, depending on how that goes.
That does have to be a mind screw, especially with the reception to the last season.
I think no matter what, I mean, again, total speculation. We don't know the guy. It just feels like, maybe he already felt like, oh, wow, this is getting tricky and coming up with this ending to this thing. But now it's been so many years. I mean, when I started reading the books, the first 4 were out. So then I got to be all excited. Oh, yay, the 5th one has come out. And now that it's just forever, the fact that this series began in the mid-90s and still hasn't ended, I like Spencer said, I don't believe he's going to finish the 7. I think someone else will.
It is definitely past Wheel of Time level of absurdity, and that guy didn't get to finish Wheel of Time either. And this is, I feel like the time span has gone on.
It's so crazy that the first few came out very close to each other. They came out within like 4 years. So it's like he was like, cranking them out. He made the 3rd book, which is my favorite, came out a year after the 2nd.
That was Azkaban, right?
Yes. Actually, but that's the funny thing, right? The first 3 books were coming out concurrent with the first Harry Potter books. And now it's like,
that's
but now now we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Like, imagine if the Potter books had the same thing happen and we still hadn't gotten 6 and 7.
Well, she'd definitely be screwed at this point.
right.
Okay, aren't you guys excited to return to the magical world? No, honestly, no.
Dobby likes being a slave.
Yay! Free yourself, elf. Small update on Squirrelgate. Both of my cats are now interested in what's happening with the squirrels, but they don't get along, so they are also fighting over who gets to see the squirrels fight. Just wanted to really update you guys on that. Let's go to chat. Siiiicckkk Sharma says, The Witcher tried to do the time jumpy thing, and it confused audiences so much that there are countless articles explaining the timeline of the series.
It's good for
and they're
us.
switching in season 2. They're abandoning that.
Okay, probably smart change.
Yeah, it's tough enough to learn a whole new set of proper nouns when you're first watching a show, than to also throw 3 timelines at you.
Ryan, was that you saying it was good for us? Because
bring the content stream, baby. Yeah, and make it confusing, shows.
Honestly, hopefully the Game of Thrones spinoff is as convoluted as possible so that fandom.com can be popping. Fandom explains Game of Thrones. But I agree. I was also very confused for a little while. I think you can do some cosmetic tweaks to make that timeline hop work. But I think you also have to ask the question, like, what does this actually help advance your narrative or tell your story in a way that you couldn't if you just did it in order?
Right.
And I don't know if that actually improves Witcher or not. Intronesia says Game of Thrones' saving grace was that it was a politics play. The characters and locations that still made it interesting until that last season. Does this also, sort of rolling into the familiarity, does this also need to feel like West Wing with swords, or do they try to sort of tackle a different?
There's certainly enough politics and allegiances and alliances and family members plotting against each other. That's a huge part of it. The question is, can they differentiate those characters enough, and can they surround them with enough interesting side players where it's not just like, oh, little Lord Fauntleroy is fighting big Lord Fauntleroy again? Because I don't know. Again, I haven't read Fire and Blood, but just the wiki version of this story, like they all seem like wieners, and like, they're all imperious and they think they play by their own rules. Like they all seem like dicks. They are, like you saw, Viserys. They all seem like Viserys with an actual kingdom.
Like Viserys's.
Yeah.
No, not too many Viserys.
Eric, I want to get your over/under Vegas odds on this. Brandon Sloan says plot twist: he's going to drop both books at the same time.
No way in hell.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I mean, that would be amazing. Look, I would love to be proven wrong. Please prove me wrong on this. But that would be so insane if he's like, oh, yeah, the reason it took so long is because I wrote both of them. And here they are. That would be amazing.
I like this question. Then we'll move on because we got some Cap to get into, and I want to know what made Louis Tam want to just throw up his whole life on the Mortal Kombat set. Second Charm also said, "What's going to become the next true water cooler show?" Westworld tried. We have Stranger Things, maybe Money Heist to a certain extent, but is this next Game of Thrones going to do it? Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings.
The problem with water coolers. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Maybe it's too like prestige TV, but like I think Succession has become that.
Yeah, I think
not to the Game of Thrones level of like everybody in the world is waiting with bated breath to see what new diss track is dropped. L to the OG Part 2. But I think
after it sweeps at the Emmys, which it will, I think it might hit that level.
Yeah, I think this could be like a season 3, just like Breaking Bad, where it took a couple seasons for people to catch up and be all over it. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say we'll never get it again, but every 10 years, every 5-10 years, we seem to. So.
Yeah.
Did Mandalorian not hit that?
I don't think Mandalorian was at that level, even though it was a big deal. And I'm very curious how the MCU shows will be. But I will say this: I don't think it can be a Netflix show because of the binge release format.
Yeah,
you can't be a water cooler show if you only have one weekend to be the water cooler show.
I think
Stranger Things is huge. They have huge hits, clearly. Like The Witcher is a big deal for them. But by their very nature, people watch them at different rates. They can't be like, did you see the last one? Oh my God, episode 3. I can't believe it. So it can't be a Netflix show. It will be either HBO or probably be a Disney Plus or HBO show. Or who knows? Like FX makes such great shows. If I were running the world, The Americans would have been that kind of show.
Yeah.
But they haven't had like a giant breakout in a while. I think Sons of Anarchy was their like last big ratings hit. But yeah, I think we'll see the MCU shows. There's a possibility, or like we just can't predict it. It'll just be something that comes out of nowhere.
I think that's a good point with the Netflix stuff, especially. Like, I think even with Stranger Things, I think we saw a case of diminishing returns because that first season landed and all of a sudden it was this phenomenon. And then season 2 was big for a couple of days. And I think that's okay for their movies, but for a show, like, gosh, at some point you got to change that release model. They've messed with it a little bit. Sometimes their game shows and reality shows sort of come out once a week, but
then it's weird because it seems like, I don't want to go too big of a tangent on this, their whole methodology now, where we know that they basically cancel most of their shows after 3, maybe 4 seasons because they won't gain new viewers, seems to be about turnover. So it's almost like because they don't want that loyalty, that like intensity that you get from a weekly release where people are, it's just like, again, maybe I'm totally wrong, but it just seems like they're like, next thing, as long as you keep watching Netflix.
And I know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to do a tangent too, but I'm actually interested to ask this, guys. Do you think like the definition of water cooler is changing? Because that specifically kind of means like what's being talked about at the office, which is a more specific like age group and like kind of an, because like the chat is talking about shows that I think are popular online, and like the most popular show online, and I don't know if that's the same spirit as what like the water cooler show, because that's, to me, that's a more specific demographic. Do you think that maybe that's just what it is? It's like, that doesn't, I mean, like offices don't exist anymore.
I don't know.
Do you think the water cooler?
I think it's got to pass the parents test. Like, do your parents know about it?
Yeah.
Like, it has to be like a cross-generation thing. It can't just be like the hot new CW show or whatever.
Yeah, I do think there is still an apples to oranges on water cooler versus popular online. Because even for us, when we're trying to pick programming, sometimes it's like, oh, this is huge. Everyone's talking about it on Twitter. And then, we'll throw up the honest trailer, or we'll throw up a video about it, or throw up the review, and crickets, because it hasn't broken the way that like an Avengers thing would, or Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it is that rarity when you can hit kind of all demos, which of course is the dream, but it's like Game of Thrones was that, and I think before that it was Lost, was like everyone, like, of course not uniformly everyone, but like most everyone was watching Lost and keeping up with it and excited about the crazy things or frustrated with the crazy things, and that I think is more and more rare, and especially these days, because there's so much to watch, it just makes sense that it's like, this is huge with that demographic. This is huge with that demographic. There's not a lot of Succession crossover with like an anime hit, that like is super talked about online.
Totally, but I feel like a show like that could be the Breaking Bad model, where it's got this slow bubble of popularity. All the critics say it's great, but then Netflix will pick it up or something, or somebody will buy it and have it all streaming, and then people freak out.
Speaking of slow burns that just have everyone freaking out, our show. Hey guys, thanks for liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell and all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. Let me see what I need to tell you about. Hey, yeah. We've been doing the show, Hey Fandom. We've been talking about it all the time. We think you guys will really like it. It's over at fandom.com/videos. There's also just articles there that sort of aggregate like all of like the highlights and clips and stuff like that. So go over there and check it out. And definitely as they start to come up again, RSVP and come join in on those, because it's actually really, really cool. You sort of get to sit in a chair next to your favorite creator, like virtually, ask them a question, say thank you, talk to them for a little bit. And it's actually really, really, really cool. So make sure that you guys are checking those out. And then also, if you just really want to talk about Game of Thrones even more, go
call me.
The game. Well, call Spencer. Hey, I will be.
Number is in the description.
Yeah, phone number, doxing in the description. But if you don't want to dox Spencer J. Gilbert, and you shouldn't, because swatting is wrong.
Whoa! You went straight to swatting. Jesus.
That's where I go, man. I'm crazy.
Like, I can change my phone number, but you send the cops after me. It's curtains.
I'm very concerned about ethics in game journalism, Spencer. And this weird rant was a long way to get you to go over to the Game of Thrones wiki over at over Fandom. Go join the Game of Thrones fandom community and talk about Game of Thrones with other Game of Thrones fans to your heart's content. And then we got a review this Friday. Asterix, unless there's huge New Mutants to do on Friday, we're gonna do a review. If there's crazy New Mutants things at Comic-Con online, then full steam ahead on New Mutants. We might even release the set visit. Who knows? No. Things could get crazy. But if not, if it's just like another trailer or something like that, we're going to review the first season of Umbrella Academy to get you prepared for season 2 to drop. I really hope that they do something crazy with New Mutants. And I'm also really feeling bad about disappointing you with the set visit, which was actually the most boring and dry thing.
Release the set visit.
Release the 30 seconds of footage and 8 photos worth looking at from the set visit. Hey guys, you want to talk about Captain America: The First Avengers for a minute?
I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like celebrating 7 months of dating instead of 1 year of dating, because it's the 9th anniversary. But Eric got his Cap toy out. I'm so glad that one didn't get sold, Eric. This movie, people sort of just call it as like, its rep is it was just sort of a prequel to Avengers and did a lot of setup. I think it gets tossed a little bit in the pile with like Iron Man 2 and Age of Ultron as like a big setup movie. But 9 years later, I mean, it's no Winter Soldier. But just tell me how you feel about that there First Avenger.
Look, I liked it. Yeah, Chris Evans is really good, as is Lollipop Head Chris Evans. How did they find a guy that looked just like him but was that skinny? It's crazy. Pretty
wild.
They did I like the aesthetic. I think they did a good job with like the World of Tomorrow, Sky Captain-y vibe. I think that once he becomes Captain America, he does great. However, I think that doing so much like winning World War II or whatever, being part of a montage was a choice. They just kind of skipped through that part, but I get it. You have to establish the character, and they did a great job of that. I think looking back, my knock on it was always like retroactively. Why does he care so much about Bucky Barnes? I mean, they seem like they're friends for sure, like buddies, but I didn't feel the like super strong borderline, love connection that everyone was fawning over, that they would then revisit that would determine like all of his choices.
Did you need that one scene with like Bucky's mom where she sits Steve down and they go over the photo album? Like, here's you as boys.
Something like that. Yeah, Bucky just seemed to me like kind of the jock with a heart of gold that was like, oh, they're picking on that nerd. Let me help him out. All right, like, so let's come on, like you can come on a date with me. Like it seemed more I don't know, more of like a pity relationship than a true bond. That said, I think it still works overall as a film, and I'd rewatch it. It's been 9 years. That's when you need to revisit things and see how you feel now.
Yeah, definitely. Eric, you have always loudly hated this movie, and it's always weirded me out. Why? Why do you hate this movie so much? Like, you're almost rude about it sometimes.
Right. It is an outrage. It's a scandal. No, I really like this movie. Yeah, it's not the best Cap movie, and Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie. But no, I think first of all, you can't discount the casting, which again was sort of the MCU in general's amazing thing, but especially Captain America, because think about how much people could have been like, no. And they were so worried about selling this movie overseas. That's one of the reasons the first Avenger subtitle was added, was because it's like, yeah, how are we going to sell Captain America? This idea, which at best could sound outdated, if not, like, to some people, anger-inducing. But that the idea, I think Chris Evans embodied, and what they got across is he's the ideal. He's what we all aspire to be. He is the best of us, which is something easy to say but very hard to pull off, and yet they did it. Like all those scenes in training camp when he jumps on the grenade, it works. It's like, damn, they sell that stuff. I do agree with you, Spencer, in retrospect. Like, when you look back on that movie, it's like, hey, it's cool Bucky's in it. It's not like, yes, the beginning of this deep bond. To the extent that I think casual viewers, when Winter Soldier came out, did not recognize him, even though they tried to. It's like they went to the Smithsonian. They tried to be like, remember that guy? The first movie sells you so well on Peggy. The Peggy Cap relationship, and I think made her a great character. But Bucky seems a little underserved in that film. But no, I think I love that Joe Johnston did it. The Rocketeer is an even better movie that had basically been his like, hey, look what I can do with a World War II era superhero movie. I think it just nails that vibe. He was the right guy to do that film. But it is funny also, you mentioned the montage, like the World War II montage. At the time, I remember them saying, oh, maybe we'll go back and fill in some of those gaps and show you more Cap World War II adventures. That never happened and never will with Chris Evans, I don't think. But I still think very fondly on that film, and just how much they nailed Cap as a character, to the point that I think he eventually was like really right there with Iron Man as like everyone's favorite, which I think when this movie came out seemed like a hard sell.
Yeah, I'm with you guys there too. When the casting was announced, I was like, what? They're not going with Aaron, what's his face? Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Because to me, having only really seen, I hadn't seen Sunshine yet, which Evans is fantastic in, and I think it's probably the movie that whoever was casting at Marvel looked at to be like, can he do it? But to me, I was like, no, that dude's Hawkeye. Hawkeye is smarmy and like sarcastic and would do the gag from Not Another Teen Movie where he got like whipped cream on his nips or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, he absolutely sells it. The hopping on the grenade is huge. I agree with you guys. The biggest letdown for me, because I was really excited about this because I adore The Rocketeer. I absolutely love that movie. Only The Rocketeer can make a mobster being nodding to an FBI agent as they join Tommy guns against the Nazis work. The
that scene was cut from The Irishman.
Just a de-aged De Niro being like, I might not make an honest buck, but I'm 100% American. I think the montage is really the big standout for me. I think, lots of World War II movies exist, and those movies are able to focus on like one aspect, of World War II, one big storyline, one big battle. But I think maybe the challenge was you've got to give Steve his one single arc, but then also make him the most important part of the war at the same time, like he was in the comics. So I definitely see the challenge, but I don't know that they pulled it off like with that montage. Mm-hmm. But this is by far not a bad movie. It's very good, and you should definitely rewatch it. Probably the best of that first wave. Well, not the best. Iron Man's the best.
Yeah.
But it came out the same. It came out within just like 2 months of Thor, which I don't hate Thor, but like Thor is a much more clunky movie. Although again, nailing the lead casting. But yeah, this movie just it feels right.
Yep.
Yeah. Thor redeems itself just for the line, son of Cole, is a very quick and funny line that goes by that no one appreciates. It's really good. Hey, you guys want to talk about ripping out spines before we get out of here?
Yeah.
Always.
Okay. So this is Mortal Kombat, you guys. It's going to be so sick. Louis Tan, who we don't know who he's playing in the Mortal Kombat reboot movie that's coming out in 2021. The rest
He's playing
of the cast,
12 palette swapped ninjas. They're all.
he is.
It's him. They just changed the color of his armor 17 times.
Yeah, he's playing Smoke and Toke
and Noob Saibot.
The cast is awesome though. Like Joe Tolson's in it, Ludi Lin, Makad Brooks. It's a huge, very awesome cast for martial arts fans. So I am really excited about this movie. Let me just go ahead and put that out here ahead as soon so I can dig in and just make fun of this tweet. He did an interview with comicbook.com. And he says, let me just say this. There were some days on set where I felt sick, physically sick. They did not hold back. So if you're on set feeling sick, I guess, that means either they're actually murdering people or the practical effects are just great and like that gory. I don't know. How much more excited are you about Mortal Kombat now that you know it'll make you vomit?
Can you hear Eric? Because I cannot.
Eric, I think your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, here I am. Sorry,
You seemed excited.
I was very excited.
Flawless audio.
No, I've actually been replaying Mortal Kombat 10 a little bit. I don't have 11, but it's so over. Those games are so over the top. They're so like they got more and more where they actually show like the X-ray vision and that I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's go ridiculous. Let's go like splatterpunk with it. So I say embrace it. Let's do it. I want to be as sick as Louis Tan.
I think if you fully commit to like the ultra violence, it's gonna be funny. Like they're going to be so like you're going to go from screams the first time to cheers to laughter, and I think that's kind of the Mortal Kombat franchise has always had a sense of humor about itself. Like that's why they have the friendships and the babalities right alongside the spine ripping, and then at this point I haven't played 11 either, but they're playing people's pancreas like bongo drums. Like they've run out of ways to kill people, and
I think that's a really good point, Spencer. I think that people forget the sense of humor with Mortal Kombat. Like you see fans just like, oh, I can't wait for this just to be like sick, and like it's goofy. Like go back to the first Mortal Kombat games. Like it's so over the top and like grindhousey and ridiculous. And I think the sense of humor is absolutely key. Like you want those kills that make you clap and make you go, oh God, come on, like lawnmowers going over people's skulls or, whatever goofy, like mid-budget slasher movie fatalities are going to go with. I think that sense of humor is super key. Like,
and it's a tough balance to strike because the lore of Mortal Kombat is a little self-serious and gets so deep into the realms and the rules of the tournament, and Shang Tsung has broken the rules and they're going to go back to the nether realm to go back to this realm, and a lot of realm talk is what I'm saying. So to marry that with ripping somebody's entire skeleton out of their body and then playing it like a ventriloquist dummy is going to be a challenge, but I'm psyched for it. I'm really excited for an R-rated Mortal Kombat.
Look at the kitty.
Look at the cat.
The cat has some big thoughts on Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, she's a big Sub-Zero Scorpion fan. She mainly wants it focused on them and kind of thinks it should have been called Scorpion Origins, and that's why you're not an executive.
Hey, for those of you, my
idea.
fellow Starship Troopers fans will appreciate that I visited the set of Mortal Kombat Legacy, the web series, and interviewed Casper Van Dien when he played Johnny Cage.
Hell yeah.
In that series. I was very excited.
Casper Van Dien was born to play Johnny Cage, man.
Yes, he was.
That was a good web series. Like
it was.
That was
really
one of the few cases of a studio being like, hey, this is good. Maybe instead of shutting it down, we should give them more money, and right?
Yeah, they did a second season, and they got some bigger stuff on it. The director of that was Kevin Tancherone, who's directed a lot of Shield episodes, and he's a really good action director. And I think it showed in what he did.
Cool.
Well, I'm excited about this, and I agree. I think the silly and the grim dark of Mortal Kombat is a tough line to walk. But I think if they walk it, I think you can nail this. I really.
If they nail this, how far off can a Warhammer 40K movie be, Joe?
I wasn't gonna bring it up. I wanted to, but I wasn't, because I think that's a franchise that has the same problem where when it started, it was like clearly supposed to be ridiculous, and then fans were just like, no, this is sick and super serious, and like they take it away, and it's like everything has 10,000 spikes on it. Like there's demons with electric guitars, you weirdos. So I think that maintaining that sense of humor is what's got to be more important. And then, chat wants to know, Spencer, what are the first Warhammer models you're going to buy, since you're very into it now? I've succeeded in getting you into painting.
Oh, all the little plastic ones. They look so cool with all their pouches and shoulder pads, and I just can't wait to spend hundreds of dollars on making them not quite as gray.
That is, you just honest trailered my hobby. Yay!
Ooh, I like it.
Any parting thoughts on Mortal Kombat or just life in general, gentlemen?
Nah, let's finish him.
Scorpion. Oh, I'm gonna do my plug.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Comic-Con at Home starting today. More tomorrow. We mentioned the New Mutants and if they'll do anything crazy at their panel. But I'm moderating one Comic-Con at Home panel for The 100, a show I've covered a lot over the years, and I moderated their first panel in 2013. So it's a nice full circle thing.
Yeah.
But that's Sunday at noon. There's a YouTube link, but you can find it using the whole Google computer thing. I trust all of you to be able to do that. So check it out. Check me out.
Make sure you guys check that, honestly. Eric, you can run an interview, dude. Like you're great at it. Honestly, sorry. Sincere alert. Let's move from spines to sincerely. You're a great interviewer, so you guys should make sure to check out that panel. Even if you don't know anything about the 100, because this dude's just great at talking to creators. And on that note, we'll see you tomorrow. Get over here.